This is an introduction to One Guiding Word so that you can learn a little bit about this experience and make an informed decision about whether you would like to join in. It is a year-long experience, so it's not like you're late here at all. We usually don't get started with One Guiding Word until well into January when people have had a chance to find out what it's about. So I'll tell you more about the history of that as we get going. I just want to cover a few logistics if you weren't here when I was covering them. So we are recording the session. If you're not comfortable being on the recording in your video box, you can go off video. You'll still be able to see and hear everything. If you have any questions during this first part, which is just the presentation, feel free to type in the chat box. And my friend Catherine is being my wonderful tech support. So she'll keep an eye on that if you have questions that come up as we go through. We are planning to, at the end, take it off the recording so that we can allow you guys to ask any questions that you have and discuss them without being on the recording. Okay. So let me just get started about what this program is. There we go. Okay, so as an introduction to One Guiding Word, I don't want to simply do the who, what, when, where, why questions. I will answer those questions, but I also want you to get a taste of what this experience is like. It is a facilitated experience where you're joining in community, joining in a group. The group will be fairly small. I wouldn't go any higher than 15 because I like groups to have the ability to get to know one another and to share in that experience without it being too fragmented, too many people in the group. And that's especially true when we're doing it virtually. Okay. The simple answer about what is One Guiding Word is that each person decides on or chooses, or as I say, is sometimes chosen by a word that they decide on for the year. And this word is like, I call it like a lighthouse. It's like this beacon through the year to give you a sense of where you're headed, where you want to go, but also that sense of safety sometimes when you lose your way. So it shows you into safe harbor. And often the words we choose, we don't even realize at the beginning of the year how powerful they will become for us later on in the year. And I'll tell you a bit about my experience with that. I want you to experience the kind of how a normal, usually our sessions would be 2 hours. We have a monthly session. And during that session, we're looking back at the month that has passed and talking about the prompt that we used for that word. And I'll tell you more about prompts. And then we're looking forward as well. So we're talking about our experience with our word right now, and we're looking forward to the next month. So I want you to have a little bit of an experience of what that would be. And at the beginning of every session I facilitate with a group, whether in person or online, I always feel we have to land first. We have to kind of get here now. And we might do a mindfulness activity, breathing exercise. We may do I might share a poem or a quote. That's the kind of thing that kind of helps us come together as a group. So I'm going to start this with two things. One is a mindfulness activity we're going to do in our own rooms, wherever we're sitting right now. And then the next is something to bring us together. So I'd like you to, if you can, get your feet on the floor and just feel where you're seated. Feel how you are supported. And I want you to take a look around you in the room that you're in and land on an object. It doesn't need to be anything fancy, just an object that is within sight. And when you land on that object, take a nice deep breath in and an exhale. Okay, now look for another object. Take a look for the next. I'm going to do this 3 times. And when you land on it, an in-breath and an exhale. And then a third time, one more object. Okay. And the next is to, with your eyes open or closed, just listen. Listen for what you're hearing, whether that's a background noise, whether you can hear children playing on the next floor, whether you just hear my voice. When you have landed on what you're hearing, take a nice deep breath and release. Okay, so now that we're grounded, I'm going to share a beautiful poem. This is from a poet named Jeff Foster. He's become my 2020 favorite. And this is his latest book called You Were Never Broken, Poems to Save Your Life. And indeed, I think they do. So this poem is called On Courage. Courage is your willingness to not know, to speak your truth, to walk your path, to face ridicule and rejection, to keep going despite the voices in your head and the judgments of others. And there are no guarantees you will make it to the place you thought you were headed, but you will make it to a destination even more glorious, yourself. Nobody can walk for you. You walk in radical aloneness, naked in the face of life, no protection, no crutches, no external authority, no ideology to save you. No promises anymore, only the beating of the heart and the air in the lungs and the thrill and terror of being utterly free, no longer numb to yourself. And a knowing from deep within, and the call of your ancestors, and the ground holding you, and the sun warming your tired body, and the fragrance of love everywhere, and warm tears running down your cheeks, and this gorgeous vulnerability that has made you completely indestructible. Okay, Jeff Foster, beautiful, beautiful, love it. Okay, so we would typically start a meeting with something like that, where we come together, because this is a shared experience. This is not a path you walk alone. You have your own word, certainly, and your own guidance as you walk with it. But this is the power of doing a program like this in community, is that you aren't alone with it. So just for those of you who have not met me, and there are a few, I just wanted to tell you who I am and how I got to this place. So my name is Paige Sterling Fox, and I began choosing a word about 15 plus years ago. I was trained as a life coach, and I had my own a life coach of my own, who recommended I choose a word. So that's how I started, simply choosing it on my own for a number of years. I have a background in adult ed and training and facilitation, and have done that kind of in a professional capacity or in a corporate capacity, as well as in the nonprofit field, and as well now individually with people that join groups. For at least, I think, 17 years, I've been facilitating women's circles, and that's kind of my heart work. have done that with groups of women for an entire year, similar to this program, or sometimes for weekend retreats. And now I have worked at a Hearth Place Cancer Support Center in Oshawa for the past 15, 16 years now, and have always facilitated these types of programs for members of Hearth Place. I'm also I am also a Reiki master, so I have been in the healing field for a long time and am a labyrinth facilitator. So I usually bring in those aspects as well somehow to the groups that I lead. Um, so my experience with doing the word on my own is that it was helpful in having a coach to check in with me about how that word progressed through the year. When I no longer had that, I found it tougher to hold on to the word and to really learn from it in the way that I needed, because I'm more of a group person. So I began documenting my word and putting it into an album and doing kind of creative prompts every month about 6, 7 years ago. And that made all the difference. To me, it made my word visible. It gave me a place to go with my thoughts and my reflections and journaling and taking pictures. And it just kept me accountable each month to coming back to, what is my word telling me right now? How is it showing up in my life? And this will be the third year that I facilitate a group at Hearth Place. So I do believe in the power of coming together and also of documenting somehow your word in a creative way, in a simple and creative way. And everybody does it slightly differently in their own way when I give them a prompt, and that's all good. It just gives you a focus for the month. Okay. I was going to ask what drew you here, but I think with such a large group, it could be difficult to do that. So I'm going to just keep going. This is what we're going to talk about tonight. So what is it, which I've kind of touched on, the benefits, how it works. So kind of the logistics of how it works, and the when, where, and the cost, and how to register. And then we're going to do an activity at the end, which I think all of you will benefit from, whether you decide to join the group or not. And that is, how do you even choose your word? Okay. So it is a year-long experience. We are together from January till the end of December, sometimes into the beginning of January, depending how the dates fall in reviewing our year. And it's meant to keep you really on track with the intention that you hold for the year. A lot of people will say, how can that be with just one word? How can one word really keep you on track? And I have to tell you, it's quite amazing how that works. And often people end up kind of gathering other little companion words, I call them, as they go through the year. But one word has a lot of power. One guiding word, like I said, is done in community. I believe in the power of that. And when I tried to think about why it is powerful, I realized it is a mind, body, spirit type program. Okay, it's holistic. You're not just doing this with your head. And I often used to, when I work with individual clients, would talk about the difference between intention, setting an intention, and setting goals. And I think most of us have experienced goal setting in our workplaces or even in our personal life with the SMART process. I don't know about you, but it works for me in a work setting, but it doesn't always work for the more deeply held kind of heartful things that I want to have a focus on for myself during the year. And I say that the difference is a masculine and feminine difference, not male and female, but I feel like goals are quite masculine, they're measurable, all of those SMART kind of things. And intention, it requires a belief in something else. It's setting still a focus for yourself, but it demands that you are open to other influences. So, for example, 2020, right? I mean, we all set maybe intentions at the beginning of 2020, and yet If you had strict goals, they may not have been able to be achieved. Trips you couldn't go on, certain things you wanted to do with loved ones or meeting people that weren't able to happen. Whereas an intention or a word will somehow still guide you through that process. So I say it's a blend of mind, the intent that you have, heart, because you have to believe you're worthy of those things coming into your life or of you achieving those things. And then a trust in whatever you want to call it, whether that's God, goddess, creator, spirit, higher self, whatever you believe. It's the trust that all those things come together to guide you, to happen for your highest good. All right. So, with what are the benefits? What are the benefits of doing this as a program and not just choosing your own word and doing your own thing? There's still value in that. I mean, you can still do this as an individual and have it be beneficial to you. My experience is this is what makes all the difference of doing it this way. So, number one, having monthly prompts. Like I said, it's having the experience of your word, looking at it through different lenses. That's how I would say. So monthly prompts can be anything from journaling, like you might have journal cards or journal questions that you're working with. Um, the prompt might be very creative. You might be doing an art collage or some photography of the things around you or in your life. It may be uh, it may be a creative, like we did when we were together, we did some stamping. So if you're artistic, you might do something artistic. If you're not, it's fine. You'll find things from magazines and others that can make that work. And each month has a different lens, a different focus, and it just helps to come at your word from different points of view. I can tell you some people love the writing and the words, and others love the creative artistic stuff. And usually they balk at the point where they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do photography. I don't want to take a picture of me. I don't want to take a picture of my house or whatever. But just kind of push through the discomfort and try. And usually people are happy with what they come up with. If it doesn't work at all, I always tell people they always have the choice to do something else, you know? Um, so yeah, so it usually works out. The documentation, like I said, when I started putting it into an album, it made all the difference. I know that people the last 2 years have told me that they love going back and looking at their albums, that they regularly go back and look and they can't believe the difference. I mean, imagine from our group last year, looking back at what they wrote in January, in June. I mean, the year changed so much. And so documenting has a lot of power. Community, like I said, the right people will all come together. All the people that you need to be in group with, and any of you who've done group work before, that's true. You will meet lifelong friends. Hearth Place group members, they mention that all the time. They're still in touch with people from their groups. And so there is a supportive community that is really listening to what you're experiencing as you go through the year with that word. And it can be different than any other of your groups that you're in. You have your friends that you might get together with, or your families, or whatever, but this is a different type of foundation. This is meant for you to grow and develop. And therefore, there are others that are really holding you in that space and unconditional acceptance of what you're going through. And then lastly, obviously, it's a facilitated process. So a lot of these programs that might have similar things, they're not coming together. So they're not having those 2 hours together where it's facilitated and those questions are asked. I do use a coaching model. I'm facilitating the group, but I'm also listening for those places of growth or of questions that might help an individual to gain a different understanding of what they're experiencing. So I almost always, those of you who've been in groups with me, I often ask, may I just ask you a question about that? Are you willing to be coached on this? Would you like to hear a different perspective? So I'll ask permission and then ask the questions that might help that person to come to a different understanding. So I have a couple participants from last year's One Guiding Word on the call tonight. And I, of course, can't see everybody, but I know I saw Sandy come in, and I think maybe Deb is here. And I asked them to come in because I think they can probably talk about their experience, their benefits that they found from being part of One Guiding Word much better than I can as the facilitator. So, Sandy and Deb, if you're able to take yourself off mute, I would invite you to share.
Okay. I'll go first, Deb, if that's okay. I can't see anybody, so I don't know what's going on, Paige. I don't know if you can see me or not.
No worries, I can see you now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. What I can say about it is it's the first time I've ever done this kind of program. And I knew I was going to like it because I'm a pretty creative person. And I thought, oh, arts and crafts and that sort of thing. But it was so much more when I actually got into it, where just when you said about the community, I think that was one of the biggest things I came away from, is just the support that I felt with just the other women and thinking about each other's words, just with the prompts throughout the month. Even though you're working on your own thing, you are thinking about, and it's just kind of like, if you throw it out there, it's amazing what comes back. And I think we all experience that. So I don't know, I can't even explain how that kind of brings growth to you, but it really does.
Yay, thank you, Sandy. Was there, did you want to say anything about like last year's experience and it being virtual, and then like what you experienced from 2020? Obviously you weren't going to a lot of things or going to a lot of other groups. So what was the benefit?
You know what? It's almost, I feel like it helped me get through 2020 in a very positive way. Yeah, for a while there, it looked like 2020 was just going to be the pits, and, you know, the group had to change. But I commend you as a facilitator. You just took it when we couldn't meet in person anymore, and we still felt like a really solid group still. And yeah, things started off, the intent was very different than how the rest of the year played out, but it did. And it's amazing how focusing on one word and just having this focus to just keep coming back to really can anchor you. It's amazing. You can't describe it. It's almost, you have to experience it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Sandy. And Deb, are you here?
I am, yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, I totally agree with Sandy. I've only done 1 year, and so I went to a couple of meetings face to face, and then we had to go online. The growth I've seen in the whole group as a whole, getting to listen to these women going through different journeys. I think everyone has just come out the other end so stronger and supported, and that, so that's important. I also found when I picked my word, it made me more aware. Instead of walking with my head down and not really paying attention and having no focus, all of a sudden that word would appear, or things would happen, and it's like, and it just validated how important that word was for me for the year, and still will be. It will always be with me. It also, if things were a little squirrely, it kind of brought me down into a calm place where I could go back and just sort of reboot just a little bit of what my priorities are, what my intentions are for the year. And it gave me calm, like, so quickly. It was just surprising to me how And then I've had other people where I've shared, like they didn't know anything about One Guiding Word, and like cancer, the nurses that work at the cancer center and all that. And even today I had a nurse that gave me my first chemo treatment see me in the hospital and came over and asked me what my new word was. And, you know, like she just, like, it's just been, you know, anyone who will listen kind of thing. You just, and it just brought real joy to my life. And the other thing I thought too, not so much for myself, but the young moms that were there and going through the struggle or just starting their journey with cancer. And it gives you the time, it makes the time for you to focus on yourself and what your intentions are. Otherwise, you just keep cooking dinner and looking after everyone else and that. So I think that happened. Some of the people that I was watching at the beginning, they were off doing whatever, I don't know what life happens, and not everybody continues, but you know, you kind of wonder about them. But I can see that when I was a young mom, if this had happened to me, I would really, I wouldn't have thought of taking time for myself or journaling or just playing, which is the creative part of it. And so I just, like, I'm fortunate because I'm retired. I can play all I want almost, except for COVID. But other than that, yeah, it's been a great experience, and it's the only group I continue to belong to. And yeah, it was amazing. And I thank you very much for everything that you have given us. And it's not hard to do. It's a feel good activities, and it's very open. If you don't have, you know, your homework done, it doesn't matter. They don't check. It's for you. Like,
There's
it's
no slapping of wrists.
yeah, no, you don't even have to confess. I still have to finish last year's. So, but I have all my cues. I keep my cues so that I know. But I mean, I can see it would be better if I did them on time. But anyway, yeah, you can see the growth a little more than saving them up for a while. But it's just therapeutic. It's just, yeah, looking after you. And I just want to thank you very much. It was great.
Well, thank you for your work.
Definitely.
It's always great to have. We had an amazing group last year, so you know, there was, the learning is there for me as much as for anyone else. And I do a word every year. I'm doing it alongside you, so I'm not just facilitating. I'm doing the prompts. I'm doing my album. I'm doing all of the same work that you're doing in between, because it's important to me and it's helpful to me. So thank you so much, Sandy and Deb, for your word.
Welcome.
Thanks
You're
for coming.
welcome. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's tell you a little bit, for those of you who like to know some of the details. This group, there will be two groups running. I run a group at Hearth Place, and then there will be this group. And we will be meeting on the last Thursday of every month. You'll get an entire outline of what those dates are and what the focus is each month. So you'll have all of that once you join on. It will be on Thursdays at 7 p.m. So the same time as this. And it's usually an hour and a half to 2 hours, depends how big the group is in terms of people sharing and so on. We will have obviously a Zoom link that you'll receive, and it'll be the same each month, but I always send out reminders. And then I'm offering kind of a graduated cost or investment levels. So if you register before the end of January 20th, and I've put the details here, but it's also, you're going to get all this. You don't have to write it down. I've got a document I'm going to send you at the end. You'll be able to get it right from this presentation. So it has all the frequently asked questions, and it has this detail. So that one will be, the early bird will be $210, that's Canadian. And that involves, that includes the 12 2-hour sessions, virtual sessions. So if you break that down, it's under $20 for a session. It has all the monthly prompts that you'll be given, follow-up emails. I always, if you miss a session, I always send out an email with all the information of what we covered and what the prompt is for the next month. Any prompts that are journaling, I will be sending as PDFs so that if you have a printer at home, you can just print it off. Otherwise, if you don't have a printer, it's fine for you to just be doing it in a journal or another kind of way of doing it. And you might just want to write them out. That's fine too. But you'll always be given the documents for it. After January 20th, we still have time because our first meeting is not until the 28th. So anyone joining up after the 20th, it'll be $240 a year. So that's equivalent of $20 a month or a session. And then, whoops. So don't worry about writing this down. We're going to put my email in the chat box later. You'll be able to grab it as well in the document. But this is just going to tell you a little bit more about registration. So I gave an added bonus. So anyone who knows already that they want to do it and lets me know by email before the end of the day tomorrow, you'll also receive a little creative package. So these are just little things that might help you when you're documenting in an album. So for instance, I'm just going to show you. So you would receive, you get to choose a color code. There's 4 different color schemes for your creative package. So you would receive some cardstock cards that you could write anything on. You'll receive decorative cards, and these are double-sided. So this is the subtles or pastel one. So these cards would easily go into your album as journaling pieces, okay? And you can even put photos on them, as well as the larger ones. So usually in an album, if you're wondering how you even put these in, typically in an album, we get inserts, these plastic inserts, and you just put the cards right into them. Okay, you'll be able to order that. Additionally, if you don't know where to get them, I can give you links of where you can order an album and inserts and so on. And but other people just decide to glue them right into like an art journal or into a scrapbook or into any kind of journal that's big enough to put these types of things. So you receive the cards, you receive washi tape. This just help. These are, everybody know washi tape? It's a decorative tape that's easy to remove from here and easy to put into other places. So you can tape down pictures or tape down cards or just decorate your cards or whatever you want. You'll receive that. You'll receive little month markers. So some people wanted to mark in their album each month, January, February, etc. So there's 3 different colors of these as well. So they'll go with your kit. And then the most exciting one, I think that's what people like the most, is most people like to put their word on the front of their album or their journal. And so I will offer as well, the creative package will have your words. So this was, somebody chose soft. So you'll have different colors you can choose for the vinyl, and you can just transfer this right onto the album. So I just did it the other day for mine. This is my word, rise. You can choose a different font too if you want to, but most people like the script because it's connected. So it's just a little bit easier to put on your album. And all of that will come with free shipping. If you're local, we might just drop it off, but otherwise that will be mailed to you if you sign up by tomorrow night. It's about, I would say with the shipping, it's a $30 value. Okay. Let's talk about your word. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience in trying to choose words or having words choose you. So it is an interesting process. In the beginning, when I was doing this, I definitely chose a word with my head. I was like, I want to have this year. I'm going to choose this word. So for instance, when I was first starting out, I want this year to be all about growth. So I chose bloom. That was one of my first words, bloom. It was a great word. It was a great year. It was perfect. It was fine to choose that way. But after that, I began realizing that my word, usually around November or so, words started occurring to me, coming to me, meaning that I wasn't specifically intending a word, I would just hear it or see it everywhere. And I learned to trust that. I learned that sometimes your word will choose you. It'll just show up everywhere. If it doesn't, there's lots of ways to go about choosing, because usually I have more than one that I'm thinking about. And I usually make a little list, and I've got my list of 3 or 4 words that are coming up for me, and I have to decide. Again, you can do the kind of masculine mind way of deciding, do your pros and cons and write about them or look up their meanings and, choose it from your head. That's fine. Um, or you can try being with that word for a while. So if you've got 3 that have shown up for you, I suggest give yourself 10 days, live with each word for 3 days. And what I mean by live with it is just literally go about your day thinking, okay, my word is focus, or my word is peace, or my word is step. I don't like who your word can be anything. Try it on for those days and see, do you think about it quite a bit? Or does it not even occur to you as you go through your day? So the best words, they kind of show up a lot for you. Um, then I had the experience. So this was kind of funny about the being chosen. I could not decide on a word. I was not getting clear at all. This was 2016. And nothing really was working for me. And I thought, it's December. I still don't have a word. What is going on? But everywhere I went, and it's still here, everywhere I went, sorry, these are on my shelves. This is still such a powerful one for me. This was everywhere I went, the ampersand, everywhere. And I loved it. I fell in love with the symbol. I thought, I am in love with this. I don't know why. I have to buy it, bring it home. Every time I went to Michael's, I got another one. It was ridiculous. And so finally, I'm looking at my room thinking, well, clearly this is my word. This is my word, but it's not even a word. I thought, what's the word even? It's and, I guess, like it's and. So I chose it, or it chose me, and I said yes, not having a clue what it meant. Not a clue. The only thing it kind of meant to me with the and was like, how you always see the Mr. and Mrs. for married. So I thought, oh, I guess this will be the year I focus on my marriage. But it was so much more than that. So what I learned when I started doing my research, which you do at the beginning in January and February, is that it's actually called the broken infinity sign. So the infinity sign, that like the 8. So it's broken. So what the ampersand says is everything comes to an end, and there's always a new beginning. That's the symbolic meaning of the symbol. And it could not have been more true of my year. And I say that, I still get kind of goose pimples. I had no idea when I chose it. But 2 months later, I would have a severe injury, which caused me to go off work, eventually have surgery. My entire life changed. My career, my everything. Everything felt like it was ending, a lot like 2020 for many of us, right? Everything felt like it was ending, but this symbol gave me hope that there would be a new beginning. It kept me going through it. And it also kept me connected to this state of having people on the other side of the ampersand who were caring for me, who were there with me, who were partnering with me. So you have to trust a little bit with the selection of the word, because sometimes it will have a meaning during the year that you could not have anticipated at the beginning of the year. So I tell people to trust it. Okay, so what we're going to do is I am going to, in the chat room, place a document. I'm going to put it there in Word and in PDF. You don't need to be able to go, you don't have to go print this off. You can later, but you can just write down on a piece of paper. What you're going to write is, in 2021, how I want to feel. Okay, so it's right at the top. In 2021, I want to feel ... and choose like 3 or 4 things. I'm going to send this, just trying to find the chat here. Okay. Go. So in the chat box in a moment, you'll be able to see so there's the PDF and there's the Word. So in Word, you could open it right up and do it. So in the beginning, this is all you want to do is in 2020, I want to feel ... and pick a few words. I want to feel calm. I want to feel connected. I want to feel creative. I want to feel confident. Look at all my C words. It could all be C. The other side of the paper, you'll fill out later. The other side is what will help me to feel calm? What will help me to feel connected? What will help me to feel creative? And you'll be able to write down some of those things. Those will help you when you're doing your initial documenting in the Word. But for now, all you want to do is talk about how do you want to feel? And if you want to feel that now, then that will probably be a good indication of how you want to feel during the year. So your word might show up right in one of those 3 or 4 options, or those 3 or 4 words might point to your word. Okay. So I think, Catherine, what we'll do is take everyone off mute and see if we can have a little bit of sharing here or questions people have about the words. So I'll just finish this last slide for the sake of the presentation, guys, and then, whoops, it's gone. Okay, that's okay. There it is. So this just re-emphasizes my contact information, but we're gonna put that into the chat box too. There we go. And I'm also going to just send you now the frequently asked questions. So if any of you need to leave, you can at least grab this before you go.
Paige, people will have to take themselves off of mute because it's a privacy thing. It's a privacy thing. I can't do it on their behalf.
Right.
Would you like me to stop the recording now?
Yes, let's stop the recording. I'm going to send this document here. This is a PDF that gives you all of the questions that we